Hi, I'm Juliet Grames, the Associate Publisher of Soho Press, and I'm so excited to be here today with Jacqueline Winspear, New York Times bestselling author of 15 novels in the Maisie Dobbs detective series, as well as the novel The Care and Management of Lies, which was a finalist for the 2015 Dayton Literary Peace Prize. Now, after these 16 beloved novels, Jackie has, for the first time ever, turned her hand to memoir with her forthcoming This Time Next Year We'll Be Laughing. Jackie, what made you turn to memoir after 16 novels?
I actually started with memoir, Juliet. Years ago, I wrote a memoir and it wasn't quite right. You know, sometimes writing is like you're trying to bend wood into a frame to hang the story on. I just couldn't get the wood into the right frame. And so I chucked it. Well, not literally, but I stuck it in a drawer. And then, you know, I had this idea for a novel that came to me and I wrote Maisie Dobbs. And so that's really the genesis of my love of memoir, which I always felt had points of universal truth, which any individual can understand, even if the writer has a completely different upbringing and life story.
Well, there is so much to connect with in This Time Next Year We'll Be Laughing. And I will say that you were definitely ready to write the memoir this time. It is so full of, it's touching and heartfelt, but also, I have to say, explosive, shocking, and historically illuminating. I learned things about your childhood growing up picking hops on a farm in Kent, about your parents living with Romany gypsies early in their marriage, and some, really shocking history about, for example, when children were evacuated from London during the Blitz, things I just had never heard before. Now, are there stories in this family history of yours that you think Maisie Dobbs readers will be particularly excited to read?
I think the readers of Maisie Dobbs are going to recognize the genesis for quite a few of my stories, because quite frankly, for certain details, I plundered that first memoir, I guess. But if I look back, I would say in An Incomplete Revenge, you know, where Maisie is among Romany gypsies, I drew upon my parents' stories of their time living and working on the farm, living in a little gypsy caravan that was, gave them about 8 foot by 5 feet of living space. But when they hit that first hard winter, it was the Romany family who were just along from them who reached out to them and helped them through. And, that it gave their lives such a freedom at a time when they really needed the freedom post-war. So that's one story, but you'll see threads all the way through, particularly, in terms of Billy Beale and his challenges with shell shock, and also Maisie Dobbs, because she's as shell shocked as any man. So I think they'll see many, many points of connection.
You do such a remarkable job covering 3 generations of your family's story, and I think people will really be excited to read this hidden history. Now tell us, Jackie, we're talking to a bunch of librarians today. Has the library played a special role in your life?
Libraries played a very special role in my life from the time I was about 2 years old. That's how old I was when I got my first little library. Those little ticket things that you stick your ticket in, the little folder. And we used to go into town once a week. So by the time I was 4, I was well versed in library etiquette. And the room, our local library, was tiny. Now, here's the thing. My mom used to push the big baby carriage with my little baby brother in 2 miles to go into the local town on a Saturday. And she took back all the library books for the street of elderly people where we lived. And she used to choose everyone's library books. And so there was not only my 2 library books, which I carried for most of the way, but my poor little baby brother, by the time we hit the library, he was almost folded in 2 at the top of the pram. You can just imagine, as my mum shoved in about 10 library books, if not more. And she just knew everybody's tastes. There were the 2 books for her and the 2 books for my dad. He liked Westerns, but luckily so did Mr. Kilby up the street, so they used to swap. And then there were all the ladies, and she knew all their library tastes. And the library was the big stop of the day. But it was such an important stop. And my mom really impressed upon both my brother and I the importance of reading and this special place the library had, because we couldn't afford books. There was no way in the world my parents could have afforded a book, but there it was, free reading. And it was, as my mom knew, it was as a link to a better way of life too, a better person. So
Jack,
there you are.
thank you so much for talking to us today. And thank you, librarians, for watching. Don't forget, November, this time next year, we'll be Laughing by Jacqueline Winspear. And we hope you have a really wonderful ALA.